Hello, everybody. I'm Bill Rabinowitz along with Joey Kaufman. We're here at Ohio Stadium after Ohio State's 45-0 win over Purdue today. We expected this to be a blowout. It was a blowout, but it was a solid win in all three phases. Offense, defense, special teams all contributed. Just kind of what Ohio State wanted.
I think back to what Ryan Day said after their win over Penn State last week is they hoped it would be a springboard for them moving forward. I think, at least for this week, it clearly was. This was arguably their most complete game of the season between all three phases. The fact they were able to get a punt block to set up an early touchdown drive. They were able to create turnovers on defense, 2 takeaways, including one that was a scoop and score for Jack Sawyer. And then the offense just being able to make plays and do what it did with the athletes. And even though they were sort of a talent mismatch, I thought the coaching staff set a pretty good lead. But, I mean, they drew up some good stuff. The sweep with Travion Henderson, it wasn't totally a case of they just rolled the ball out and went out and play. I think they did some schemed up some good looks throughout this one, too.
Ohio State did not score on their first drive. They got a first down and punted, and they scored on their next 6 drives, 5 of them touchdowns. So this was ended any doubt by the first half. It was, I think, one of the biggest scores was the last one of the second quarter. It was 14-0. 14-0, fine, but to tack on that third one, make it 21-0, you knew there was no chance. I mean, you pretty much knew all along. But the fact that they added that third touchdown, then came out and kicked a field goal on their first possession of the second half. I just think it was a very solid performance. Will Howard did not commit a turnover. He had the pick 6 and the fumble at the goal line last week. He didn't play mistake-free, and he kind of owned up to some things he wanted back, but no critical errors.
That was, I think, really good for him. And he also, I think, continued to show that he's a difference maker in the red zone with some of the ability to run for that first touchdown was on a 4th and 2 or 4th and 1. I can't remember exactly the spot of the ball. Then they had the other sneak on a 4th down that extended drives. I think talking about the offense, we should mention Carson Hinsman went down late in the second quarter. That could have been a really disastrous situation for Ohio. They looked ominous at first, where your starting left guard, after all the weeks of reshuffling, goes down grabbing his left knee. That didn't look good, but he came back for the second half, started the second half, played until all the starters were pulled in the fourth quarter. So I think another factor in a game like this is you want to get through it without guys getting hurt.
And Donovan Jackson at one point was grabbing his right ankle. Stayed in the game, didn't leave the game, but he's even more indispensable. They lose him. I mean, they can plug in Austin Sirveld or somebody else at left guard, Luke Montgomery, but you can't afford to lose Donovan Jackson as your new left tackle. And again, he was fine. He didn't miss a play, but as soon as I saw him kind of limp, and I thought, oh boy, I hope that stuff is serious.
A big day for Jeremiah Smith as well. He broke Chris Carter's true freshman receiving touchdowns record. He came with his 9th touchdown. That was sort of an inevitability at this point in the season, the way they were able to lean on him. He did not have a touchdown at Penn State. He's had a touchdown in every game up until Penn State, then had one today to break the record. More of a culmination point, if anything, less of a surprise.
I think what says a lot about how efficient and balanced this offense was the fact that Emeka Egbuka didn't catch a ball until the last play he was on the field. It was early in the fourth quarter. He caught a touchdown pass. That was his only catch of the day. And so when you can not have somebody who's going to probably be a first-round pick be a big part of the offense, that's impressive. Travion Henderson only had 6 carries, but he made the most of them. I thought he ran great today. 6 carries, he averaged 14.5 yards a carry or something crazy like that. He's running really, really well right now.
Well, we talked about Chip Kelly's creativity, or kind of alluded to it earlier on. I mean, Travion had one catch where they lined him up out wide as a receiver, and they just had him run a go route, and Will Howard kind of lofted a pretty nice ball to him for that one.
Yeah, and on defense, I really noticed JT Tuimoloau, Jack Sawyer a lot, not just on the fumble and scoop and score, just in general. They've tweaked the defense. Joey, you wrote about it this week. They re-engineered the defense after the Oregon game, kind of stripped it down and kind of building it back up. And Sawyer said that they're just keeping it simple. Just keep it simple, just go and play. And you can see that. Jack Sawyer's had a somewhat quiet year. I mean, maybe not the splashy plays that we expected, like he made at the end of last year. Maybe just his production and statistical production tends to come at the end of the year. He's played fine, but today was the first day where he really made some real difference-making plays.
Yeah, they really got after Purdue quarterback Hudson Card in this game. It is remarkable. This was their first shutout of a Big Ten team since 2017 over Rutgers. But it arguably shouldn't have been a shutout because twice Purdue had a chance to get on the board with at least a field goal, especially early on in the game where they missed just a chip shot field goal from.
It was an extra point.
It was, what was the ball? They had the ball at the Ohio State's
21-yard
3-yard line.
It's an extra point.
Yeah, and it was. I mean, it's not truly an extra point because it's a little more in the right hash. And that one was not all the way on the right hash, but it was just a little bit. But then he pushed the field goal wide right. That was an early chance where Purdue felt like maybe they could have gotten on the board. But you have to question why they're even going for kicking a field goal. You're a 5-touchdown road favorite. Kind of live a little.
Road underdog. Yeah, I mean
underdog. Important.
It was 7-0 at that point. You know, a field goal just so you can say you scored. I mean, if you want to show you can win, 4th and 3, go for it. You know, you got nothing to lose. I mean, Ryan Walters has nothing to lose. So I think it was like football karma striking there. And then the kicker missed a 38-yard field goal, hooked that one.
Yeah.
So yes, it's not a shutout with an asterisk because any shutout's a shutout. But obviously Purdue had 2 pretty good chances to score and didn't capitalize. Again, this was one of the games where, like, okay, after Penn State, what's Purdue going to show? Not much. I mean, they're 1-8. They've been outscored. I'm trying to remember the number. I think it's 345 to 113 in Big Ten play. Or after the opener, they won the opener against Indiana State. I mean, they've just been outclassed all year. They had a couple overtime games in there, and Ohio State players and coaches tried to say. I mean, Ryan Day said all week, Purdue's better than their record, and Will Howard said today, Purdue's pretty good team. They're not a pretty good team. Sorry, folks.
Yeah, they were an overmatched team, but I mean, Ohio State, I think, deserves its credit and kudos for coming out and just taking care of its business. That has not always been a guarantee. The week after Penn State, you're worried about whether they would just be going through, maybe for them, like an emotional hangover kind of thing.
Right.
So I think that's the thing you have to worry about if you're Ohio State. And they look crisp from the jump. I never felt like they were really playing sluggish or had a letdown or any of those sort of things. That it happens when you have a bunch of 18, 23-year-old college football players.
Yeah, Ryan Day said, look, it's November. We can't waste a snap. We can't waste anything. I mean, this is crunch time. Ohio State next goes to Northwestern. Actually, they go to Wrigley Field to play Northwestern. And probably the main allure of that game is going to be playing at Wrigley Field, the home of the Cubs. Northwestern is a step above Purdue, but not a big step above Purdue.
I thought you were going to say step above the Cubs.
Which I'm not going there. Purdue lost to Northwestern last week in overtime, so that kind of tells you where Northwestern is as well. And then, of course, in 2 weeks is the big one. I mean, who would have thought we'd be saying at the beginning the big one is Indiana in late November and not Michigan? You know, we'll see how that game turns out. They're playing it right now, but Indiana looks more formidable than Michigan at this point. That'll be a fun one.
Yeah, Indiana, they could basically clinch a playoff berth if they win the next 2 weeks. Then you can rest your starters against Michigan.
That's probably a good way to end it. All right. Thanks, everyone, for watching.
That was a joke.
Again, 45-0 Ohio State over Purdue.